New Zealand Prime Minister John Key meets with the President and the Prime Minister.
The Newsfirst Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign begins.
Panel of judges in the case relating to the assassination of Bharata Lakshman visits the locations described by the witnesses.
Hello and welcome. This is Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Very good evening to you. I am Shahin Jurampati.
And I'm Bahina Bongso. We begin with news from here at home.
Prime Minister of New Zealand John Key called on President Maithripala Sirisena this morning and held bilateral talks at the Presidential Secretariat.
Speaking after the discussion, Prime Minister Key had noted that under the present leadership, Sri Lanka is moving on new avenues, locally and internationally, and that Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena has been accepted as a great leader.
Prime Minister of New Zealand John Key, who arrived in the island, was officially welcomed this morning at the Presidential Secretariat at an event which was graced by the President. A military guard of honour was accorded to the New Zealand Prime Minister. Subsequently, the President introduced the Sri Lankan ministers and other high-ranking officials to the visiting Prime Minister. Thereafter, President Sirisena and Prime Minister Key held bilateral discussions. Both countries inked several agreements. The Nandi elephant calf was gifted to New Zealand and the President handed over the letter in this regard to Prime Minister Key.
The agreement that was reached today includes a program that would provide training to those engaged in the dairy industry. We hope to take steps towards further strengthening the tourism industry between the two countries. The New Zealand Prime Minister's visit can be considered as a moment to further strengthen bilateral relations on trade, economy and other sectors, and also to further deepen relations between Sri Lanka and New Zealand. We will also work to incorporate the technical knowledge from New Zealand in building our economy and for the future generations.
I can see for myself the amazing progress that is taking place under your leadership and under the wise counsel of your ministers. And so I congratulate you on what you're doing and thank you for the opportunity to come and visit. You are dealing, I think, very effectively with challenging issues of reconciliation and previous issues of corruption that you have to deal with. And we congratulate you on the leadership that you're showing. We know these are always challenging issues for any leader, but we wish you the very best as you undertake that important work. From New Zealand's point of view, we see Sri Lanka as a real shining light in the Asian region. We can see the economic reform program that you're undertaking, and we see the enormous opportunities for your 21 million people. We have been, for a long period of time, had involvement in your country in a variety of forms, but most pronounced obviously through our dairy sector and through the work of Fonterra, who have been selling dairy products into Sri Lanka for a very long period of time.
The New Zealand Prime Minister called on his Sri Lankan counterpart Ranil Wickremesinghe this afternoon.
Nandi is the second elephant calf that Sri Lanka will be gifting to New Zealand. Nandi is currently at the Pinnawala Elephant Orphanage. Born on the 28th of April in 2011, Nandi is currently 5.5 feet in height. Today, Newsfirst captured footage of Nandi, who in few days' time will fly to his new home, New Zealand. Now, earlier in the day, I caught up with the Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key. Let's take a look at what he had to say. Prime Minister Key, the last time you were here was in 2013 to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, a move which was highly criticized in your country, urging you to boycott the meeting as the Canadian Prime Minister did. It's been 3 years since then. How do you see Sri Lanka progress during these 3 years?
I mean, firstly, we didn't actually agree with the view that that the Canadian Prime Minister at the time, Stephen Harper, should boycott, because in the end, the Commonwealth Heads of Government is hosted in a variety of different locations. We don't always agree with every single policy that a particular government might have, but by going to that meeting, we continue to build on the family of Commonwealth countries, of which Sri Lanka is one of them. And secondly, Sri Lanka was going through and is continuing to go through a significant process of reform. I mean, what I've noticed in the last 2.5 years since I've been here is firstly, the reconciliation is going ahead at a fast pace. I think a lot of work is going into making sure that we have a sustainable, harmonious future for all of the participants and stakeholders, so that's very important. I was actually pretty impressed back in 2013, but coming back now, you can really feel the vibrancy. But we can genuinely see the President and the Prime Minister working on reform policies.
Well, you can watch the full interview with New Zealand Prime Minister John Key next Tuesday, the 1st of March at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
In more local news, the proposal for the appointment of the Constitutional Assembly was taken up for debate for a second day in Parliament today. These were some of the views expressed.
Sri Lanka Nidahas Pakshe Washen අපි ඉතා පැහැදිලිව
We as the Sri Lanka Freedom Party clearly stated that the 20th Amendment should be brought forth with the 19th Amendment. Certain individuals try to sabotage discussions on this move. We clearly stated that electoral reforms should be taken up first at the Constitutional Council meeting. In no way will the rights of the minority be undermined by reforming the electoral system. That is not our intention.
A referendum is being called for the drafting of a constitution. But there is no talk of drafting a constitution here. It is to create a constitutional assembly instead. There is a problem of creating this constitutional assembly.
We are not concerned about the disputes existing here. This was tabled on the 9th, taken up for debate on the 12th, and it was to be endorsed in 2 days. But what has happened now? It is to be taken up for debate again over the next 2 days.
The necessary components for electoral reforms exists in the 20th Amendment. The 20th Amendment will be introduced tomorrow. But tomorrow is yet to come. There is no price for paddy. Paddy is sold for 17 rupees. How can these people survive? Should they resort to eating the constitution?
Allegations are being levelled at him, charging that he is a thief and a fraud. But this country would still be at war if not for Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Minister Nimal Siripala spoke about the electoral system. However, the problem existing in the country today is not about the electoral system. Where were you when the 18th Amendment was passed? John Sinivaratna spoke about somebody being called a thief. A thief is a thief. If Mr. Maitripala also committed thievery, he too will be called a thief.
Are we moving from darkness to darkness, or are we moving from darkness to light? This will depend on the substance of the constitution that is to be drafted by this House. Personally, I am against abolishing the executive presidency. I am for electoral reforms and against the devolution of power that goes beyond the 13th Amendment. However, there may be a citizen in the country who is for the abolishment of the executive presidency and is against the federal type devolution of power that goes beyond the 13th Amendment. A referendum on the draft of the new constitution is necessary.
If you consider the stance of the JVP on this matter, they really did not have a separate stance and were of the same stance as Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. That is what I comprehended. Even today, they share the same stance by calling for the speedy endorsement of the proposal. Today, his plan to carry out the constitutional process outside the parliamentary chambers has been foiled.
Speaking in Parliament yesterday, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed the following views.
Are these people who did not steal? Tell me. I know because I have the files on who stole, who took commissions and how many have got caught for corruption.
Now, the Right to Information Act was one of the points discussed on the Newsline program this morning.
You can ask, unless the system of law is not enforced in your country, you have no right to reply.
Right.
But if the law is enforced, when you ask the question, that question goes also not only to the person, but to the crime department, and the crime is alerted, this guy has something that he shouldn't have. So then it is the duty of the criminal investigation department on their own to begin to investigate how this happens. So we are made silent not only by these censorships and intimidation, by the very fact our laws are not enforced. So that today if you say, oh, this is a crime, so what? Imagine.
A group of opposition MPs convened a media briefing in Colombo today. Attention was drawn towards the India-funded ambulance service in Sri Lanka.
If we are making a payment, why isn't this service being provided for the local hospitals? After a period of 1 year, the Indian company would establish itself here. After that, Sri Lankan companies will not be given access in a just manner. The cabinet paper presented by the Prime Minister also mentions about the visa. He says that Sri Lankans will be given employment. How much does an ambulance driver get paid? 25,000 rupees. That means after working for 12 hours, an officer is paid 25,000 rupees a month. You need English as a qualification. Then no Sri Lankan would apply for this. This is the first time that the free health service is subject to a hybrid situation. Though the start is a free service, it will not be free forever. It will become a business where you will have to make payments. MP Dallas Alaperuma commented on the statement made to the Government Medical Officers Association. We make an open invitation to the General Secretary of the United National Party to come before the people and seek forgiveness from the professionals.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened a media briefing today.
A proposal was made citing that the request made for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party MPs who contest the August 17, 2015 general elections under the United People's Freedom Alliance and be elected to Parliament to be recognized as an independent group in or out of Parliament and to be a member of such a group not to be accepted. Thereby, on the 12th of February 2016, the General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party had written to all the parliamentary-elect Sri Lanka Freedom Party members who contested under the United People's Freedom Alliance. Once the demarcation process is over, the alliance, including the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, will be prepared to contest the polls. We will give the opportunity for all the Pradesh Sabha members to contest. In addition to that, when making selection for the post of chairman and deputy chairman of the local government bodies, we will impose a condition that the individual who gains the highest percentage will be given due consideration. Therefore, no one needs to have any doubts and form groups. The forcing policy was the point where the government of Mahinda Rajapaksa went wrong. Until the war was over, that was maintained properly. However, after the war, we could have built relations internationally, especially with India. I think we missed that opportunity. Therefore, today, as we are working closely with India, we need to take forward the policy of building relations with all other nations in the world.
Also convening a media briefing today, the Anti-Corruption Front expressed the following views.
The financial crimes cannot be suppressed by merely smashing coconuts. Udaya Gammampela says that Yoshida Rajapaksa only served as the brand ambassador and that he was not an official of that institution. Former Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Sports, Ganegala, is a decisive person who provides the state assistance for CSN. He forwards a cabinet paper in this regard to Yoshida Rajapaksa as the head of the institution. The cabinet paper is dated the 5th of December 2011. Udaya Gammampila, what do you have to say about this? Secondly, tenders were called to provide the air conditioning to the CSN premises. United Electrical Engineering and Nihal Nanakara handled everything with Yoshida Rajapaksa. A brand ambassador would never handle dealings for fixing the air conditioning and fans. This is the person who has signed the agreement. Udaya Gammampila, you are attempting to show that he is not the chairman. Your actions are disgraceful. 2 addresses have been provided to the registration of CSN. One is the address of Sema Building, down Janadipati Mawatha. Can a private television channel be registered under the address of a state institution? Number 260/2, Torrington Avenue, Colombo 7. Whose house is this? How did the Rajapaksa family come in possession of this house? You don't need political knowledge for this. Anyone can realize it. The Siraliya account, CSN, the DA Rajapaksa Foundation and all businesses of the Rajapaksa family and all associated institutions are registered under this address. There are several groups of persons who invested in CSN. Ashan Fernando, Gadya Karuna Jeeva and Kavishan Disanaika, who are among the investors, are significant persons. Let's say that these three persons invested in a certain amount, 200 million rupees. From 200 million rupees, have these groups received any profit until today from CSN? After investing 200 million rupees, they have not received a cent in profits. They act like dollars. This is where the main profit of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act comes in place with regard to CSN. When delved deeper into this, it is clear that this is the laundry used to convert black money into white.
මේක මුදල් විශුද්ධීකරණය කරන්න කළු සල්ලි සුදු කරන්න දාපු launderiයක්.
The Newsfirst Gum at the door-to-door island-wide campaign commenced this morning in a bid to reach out to the people who face issues that are yet to be addressed.
The campaign commenced today from Jaffna, Puttlam and Bibila. The Newsfirst Gum at the door-to-door campaign is taking place with the assistance of the University of Peradeniya.
The Newsfirst Gum at the door-to-door campaign in Jaffna commenced this morning in Varani following religious observances held at the Suttipuram Amman Kovil. Varani is a remote area located in the jurisdiction of the Chavakacheri Divisional Secretariat in Jaffna, and locals in the area were hospitable towards Newsfirst. The Newsfirst team then moved from door to door speaking to the locals and inquiring into the issues that they face. The campaign took place in the villages of Karambukurichi, Varanevaraka and Navakadu this evening. We don't have water. They have given us such houses. We need a housing project as soon as possible. All the roads that are used to enter the village are in a muddy state.
We have to walk about 2 kilometers to the town to get a bus. We don't have transport facilities.
I'm joining you all from the Jaffna city centre, where Newsfirst successfully concluded day one of the Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign. Now, Gum at the Door-to-Door is, of course, a program aimed at bringing to light the issues faced by people in the most rural of areas. And today, we were able to travel to the most rural areas in the Jaffna district, including the areas of Varane, Navakadu, Kudambian, Suttipuram, and these are just a few of the areas that we traveled to today. We were able to interact with the people, we were able to speak with them, we were able to find out their issues, and two main issues were highlighted by a majority of the people that we spoke to today. They are the lack of a proper drinking water scheme, as well as the dilapidation of the road network in the area. So we hope that we can shed more light on these issues and get the necessary officials involved in rectifying it as well. Gum at the Door-to-Door continues tomorrow as well in the Jaffna district. Tomorrow we will be travelling to a number of islands in the Jaffna Peninsula, and we will be able to look into the plight of these people as well. So join us tomorrow as well. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Rugal Bandara reporting from Jaffna.
The second team of the Newsfirst Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign commenced their journey from the village of Manalgundu in Puttlam. Puttlam District Secretary MHM Chitrananda, Puttlam Divisional Secretary Muhammad Malik, SSP of Puttlam SPLB Sandungawata and Newsfirst Director General Manager Yasrat Kamal Siri were present for the commencement of the program. A significant moment of this event was that the District Secretary too promised to renovate the road in the Manamkundu village.
When we were reaching this area, it was evident that this was an isolated village in this area. I had a discussion with the Divisional Secretary. We will speak with the Municipal Council and try to at least cover up the ditches on the road. I believe that the Municipal Secretary will direct his attention towards this matter.
Two subgroups then took off towards the rural villages in the area in a bid to identify the drinking water issues faced by the people. One team visited families in the villages of Gevalvessa, Mullipuram, Ratmalyaya, Bandirnagpura, Senkuri Ripu and Panchan Ode, while the other teams visited the villages of Sirambiadavia, Manavaria and Karulagaswava.
කිරිහරක් හදන්න ලොකු විශාල ඉඩම් ප්‍රමාණයක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ප්‍රධානම ගැටලුවට තියෙන වනාලි තර්ජනය
The third team of the Newsfirst Come at the Door-to-Door campaign commenced their journey from the historical Unagolla Purana Rajma Vihara, where the Uva-Velasa battle took place. Blessings were invoked on the Newsfirst team by the Mahasangha headed by Venerable Dharmakidri Sri Nandasara Hevelvela Sri Sunandathero.
The members of the indigenous community with their leaders in Rathapulla have welcomed the Newsfirst organization by performing their traditional Kirikona dance.
The Newsfirst team reached the rural village of Ratugala in Nilgala, Balupitiya and Therava in order to identify the difficulties faced by the people. The Newsfirst Come at the Door-to-Door campaign is set to reach out to more rural villagers in a bid to provide them with solutions to the issues that have not been addressed.
The single largest public service initiative in Sri Lanka, the Newsfirst Come at the Door-to-Door campaign, covering the most rural parts of Sri Lanka, giving a voice to the voiceless. The Newsfirst Come at the Door-to-Door initiative, an unprecedented island-wide campaign in association with the University of Peradeniya.
Today, farmers in their numbers from Madirgiriya took to the streets, demanding that fertilizer subsidy be provided under the previous method and that the mechanism of providing a certified price for paddy be continued. Among them were a special group of persons. These persons are the farmers who only cultivate during the Maha harvesting season. The reason why they do not engage in paddy farming during the Yala harvesting season is the lack of water for cultivation. There have been many instances when farmers have clashed as they attempted to cultivate with the water shortage during both harvesting seasons. 2 farmers lost their lives in the Pandyavava area in Madirgiriya during the last Yala harvesting season following the escalation of one of those clashes. Almost 2,000 acres of paddy land under the jurisdiction of the Madirgiriya Divisional Secretariat are nourished by the Pandyavava, which depends on rainfall and several other small tanks. Over 1,000 families live in this area. In 2013, steps were taken to construct a branch canal from the Kaudulu Reservoir in order to provide water to this area so that paddy can be harvested during both the harvesting seasons. Named as the Damsopura Irrigation Project, the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources Management had allocated a sum of 160 million rupees for the project. The length of the branch canal that was to be constructed was 15 kilometers. Even after 2 years since the inception of this project, less than half the length of the canal has been constructed.
This has been going on for so long and we see no progress in this. Millions of funds are allocated for this project, and what has happened to those funds? Only the Department of Irrigation knows about it.
According to the project director, the reason for the stalled construction is not the shortage of funds.
160 million rupees has been allocated for this, but up to now, not even 7.5 million rupees worth of work has been completed. With this year, 3 years have lapsed since the project commenced. This project has become a failure due to the negligence of the officers here in Polonnaruwa. It is the secretary who is protecting these officers since they are part of the senior cadre.
Should officers be allowed to play a game of tug-of-war at the expense of the lives of farmers for this project where funds have been allocated to solve the water problem? State Minister of Irrigation, this is over to you.
The case pertaining to the killing of Bharth Lakshman Premachandran was taken up again in court today.
The case was taken up before the bench comprising of Justices Shiran Gunaratna, Padmini N. Ranawaka and MC B.S. Moraes. The High Court judges today visited the locations described by the witnesses pertaining to the case. They undertook the visit following a request made by Deputy Solicitor General Thusit Mudaligay. The case will be taken up again on the 29th of this month.
They inquired from me as to whether the assets were acquired through other means. Answers were provided to those questions. We are aware that there will not be a problem if the investigation is carried out in a just manner. Allegations. 1. Printing diaries and calendars at a cost of 14 million rupees without following any acceptable institutional procedure. 2. 5 houses worth 71 million rupees built in Kathudur and Mattegoda for commercial purposes distributed to his close relatives after presenting a low estimate for them. 3. Recruitment of 12 persons to Ocean View Development Company Private Limited while serving as the Minister of Housing and paying them a sum of over 6 million rupees as annual pay and for using them for the political services. 4. Arrested and granted bail for possessing a fake passport. 5. Use of vehicles that come under the Presidential Secretariat.
A woman died after being crushed by a branch of a bow tree on a by-road that leads to the Kandy-Bogambara main road. The tragedy took place this afternoon.
A bow tree located down Sri Dhammananda Mawata in Aludgama had uprooted and crushed a pickup jeep that was travelling on the road at the time. The 3 occupants in the pickup, all from Dankoto, were admitted to the Kandy Teaching Hospital. At the time the bow tree uprooted, a mother, father and their 2 children who were walking down the road were crushed and the mother succumbed to her injuries upon admission to the Kandy hospital. They were residents of the Polgahamulla area in Peradeniya. The fire brigade of Kandy and the police took measures to clear the road thereafter. Residents of the Polgahamulla area in Peradeniya. The fire brigade of Kandy and the police took measures to clear the road thereafter.
The opening session of the 11th Iran-Sri Lanka Joint Commission for Economic Cooperation was held in Colombo today.
Political, economic and cultural relationships of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka is one of the most important goals of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This special position of Sri Lanka in the foreign policy of the Islamic Republic of Iran must be established through the promotion of bilateral relations, particularly in the economic, social, energy, training, tourism and health sectors. Iran is currently implementing 2 major projects of multipurpose dam and power plants of Umayyah as well as the electrification of 100 villages. I hope the implementation of these projects will help to improve the quality of life of the people of Sri Lanka. In this regard, we consider these 2 projects as the very first stepping stones of our cooperation that will help to define more effective and bigger projects and effective cooperation between the 2 sides.
That brings to an end today's edition of Primetime News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I am Shahin Jarampati. Good night and take care.